right, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. Today we have the Mr. Charlie Lee, creator of Litecoin, with us, and we're going to ask him a few questions here. So thank you for joining us, and guess we'll jump right into it. What I'm really interested in, we've seen a lot of institutional investment, such as PayPal and Grayscale, come into the picture this year. How do you see that playing out here? Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing? What kind of impacts do you think it has on the crypto space?
Well, we're seeing a lot of different things, right? So we're seeing like companies like MicroStrategy buying Bitcoin for their company treasury, which is like the first of this kind of demand, which is, I think it's huge, right? It's getting a lot of FOMO from other companies calling up MicroStrategy and asking them, what's the deal? Like, why are you doing this? And then, I mean, MicroStrategy actually thinks that it's the safe play, right? A year ago, or like the last cycle, owning Bitcoin is like the risky move, right? It's a speculative risky move, but it's slowly becoming the conservative move, right? Owning fiat is, having your balance sheet on fiat is kind of the more risky and dangerous thing to do because of the constant money printing and inflation. So owning Bitcoin is kind of like a new conservative thing to do, which is kind of surprising, and that's a neat kind of turning point.
Yeah, I agree. I remember years ago, kind of with friends talking about Bitcoin and speculating, like, man, these big companies getting in, that'd be so cool. And never would I have imagined that they're not just getting in, they're using it as a reserve. I think that is something I never even imagined as a possibility. And at least in my opinion, is probably like the best possible scenario, just holding it against the dollar.
Yeah, I've always thought one of the kind of the pie in the sky goal for Bitcoin was that countries would start owning Bitcoin as reserve. In addition to, they own gold right now, right, in their reserve. I actually didn't think about kind of the step there is companies doing it first.
Yeah.
It makes total sense after thinking about it now. Yeah, companies would do it first before countries would do it.
Yeah, they're leading the way for it. It just never saw any of this coming, and we used to speculate all kinds of stuff. That like certainly they're going to push, almost it'll even be in our favor, push for regulation and really to have things cleared up in the crypto sense, I think, at least. And so that kind of leads into my next question as well. How do you think 2021 is looking? And not really price stuff, but we've seen this trend of adoption specifically institutionally, but do you see any maybe advances there or anything else new coming our way in 2021?
I think we'll see more of companies getting into holding Bitcoin as part of their company treasury. I do think at some time, maybe not 2021, but soon, we'll see like a country doing it, right? Maybe like countries like Venezuela, countries that are actually a lot, like they're really affected by their currency being devalued, may start doing it, holding Bitcoin, crypto in the reserves, and also see something like an ETF happening. I think that's kind of the next step, to have like a Bitcoin ETF being approved, make it easy for anyone to buy Bitcoin through an ETF, have their IRA or other accounts. Just being easy to buy Bitcoin is going to be huge.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, without an ETF today, like you're seeing Grayscale like having billions of dollars put into their Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even Litecoin trust, because that's like the only way or the easiest way for people that aren't comfortable holding their own coins to be able to get access to this asset class. And you're seeing huge demand there. So an ETF would even take it that much further.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed and loved that as well, that they included Litecoin. And I've noticed really even back when Coinbase years ago was talking about a crypto index, they had included Litecoin in it. It always seems to be a player in all of these long-term kind of, I don't know, looks by businesses and things. And I'm always happy to see that.
Yeah, it's cool that kind of Litecoin is considered one of the top coins. Like, I mean, like PayPal launched support for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. Those are like the top four coins that they, or the first four coins that they're supporting. It's nice to see Litecoin being kind of included in the top tier coins.
Yeah. In my opinion, it's definitely in the top tier. So
yeah, it's been running kind of nonstop since 2011 without any downtime. It just works and has like high liquidity. The trade volume exceeds the market cap on a daily basis. So it's just highly traded, very useful and useful coin. So yeah, it's good to see.
So kind of shifting topics here. In the crypto space right now, we've seen DeFi enter this year, and that was kind of the rage. Do you see any other gaps maybe that crypto can fill but isn't currently filled, that may be addressed in the future?
I think kind of the main goal for me at least is for cryptocurrency to become money, right? To become good sound money. And that in of itself is already a hard, like daunting task to do, right? For Bitcoin, Litecoin to be kind of to be viewed as good money, right? To kind of effectively like replace gold and silver as the best form of money. And kind of we're getting there, but there's still a lot to do, and it'll still take a lot of time for that to happen. But I think just doing that is enough to propel the whole market to like a huge value.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you there. That's the dream. It's coming true. Like at the pace at which these things are happening, a lot of people, especially newer people, I feel like are experiencing that boiling frog metaphor thing where you put the frog in the water, and if you slowly boil it and it dies or whatever, but if you throw it in boiling water, it jumps out. You don't really notice these changes, and now it's coming at light speed. It's crazy. The difference, even just between a few years ago, you can almost not recognize the space now.
Yeah, I mean, now with like PayPal and companies holding Bitcoin, that would be like totally shocking if you told me that 4 years ago, or even like 2-3 years ago that this would happen.
I never would have believed it. I would have called you a moon boy. Yeah, right. PayPal. And now I log in. It's the first thing, and I've never used my PayPal for crypto or anything like that. First thing I see, just this buy Bitcoin. So that was really exciting.
It opens up crypto to hundreds of millions of new users, right? It's huge.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got one last question for you. I'm sure everyone else is curious about Mimblewimble. I've heard about it. Not needless to say, I don't know everything about it, and I'd love to hear maybe a simple explanation of it from you and where you see that taking Litecoin.
Yeah. So the project is called MWeb. Stands for Mimblewimble Extension Blocks. So what MWeb is adding like a layer to Litecoin that gives it fungibility and privacy. So right now, fungibility is one of the kind of the main features of good money that not that Bitcoin and Litecoin doesn't do well. What I mean by that is a coin is fungible if every single unit of that coin is indistinguishable from every other unit. So for example, like cash is fungible because you can, if you go to buy something, you pull out a $20 bill from your wallet, it doesn't matter which one you pull out from your wallet, the store will accept it. They don't care like whichever one, right? They're not unique. So $20 bills work and are fungible. Bitcoin and Litecoin today are not that fungible because if you spend some coins, there's history attached to it, and someone receiving it can actually potentially figure out how much money you have, right? If you just bought 10 Bitcoins off an exchange, you send part of that to your friend, he can actually see you got 10 Bitcoins and figure out where you got it from actually, because everything is out in the open. So adding fungibility requires some sort of privacy. And I think that's it's a good next step to make Bitcoin and Litecoin better money, right? If you want to, right now, if you're spending Litecoin, you kind of have to choose. You have to like look at your coins and decide which one to spend if you want to keep some fungibility and keep some privacy. And that's just annoying thing for money. So what we're doing is we are the proposal is to add an extension block. So every Litecoin block would have a corresponding extension block, and you can move coins between them. You can move your Litecoins from the main blocks to the extension block. And once you're in the extension block, we use a technology called Mimblewimble, which is a way where it hides the amount being sent. So if I send you some coins from the public blockchain, all you see is coins being moved, but you won't see how many coins were moved. So you're hiding that financial information from the public. But of course, the recipient will know how many coins they got. And the great part about this, cryptographically, everyone can still calculate that no coins were created and no coins. So that's the hard part, right? With something that's hidden, you're concerned that I just created coins out of thin air, right? I just created coins and it doesn't add up correctly. But cryptographically, that can be figured out that no coins were created. Okay. I sent X number of coins, the recipient received X number of coins, and there's nothing shady going on. And that's important. So Mimblewimble does that. And that's a technology called confidential transaction that has been around for many years. And then also Mimblewimble has the ability to make it still scalable. One of the issues with privacy is scalability is a concern. A lot of the privacy technologies just bloat the blockchain to like 20 times the size because it just takes a lot of cryptography to make privacy work. And more crypto stuff just adds more size to the blockchain. So Mimblewimble addresses that and makes it still scalable and still private. So it's a good thing we're trying to do. And yeah, so once you move your coins to the Mimblewimble to the M website, everything is private. And then if you want, you can peg the coins back out to the main chain and make it transparent. So this will be a soft fork. So what that means is you don't have to support it. So I don't see exchanges supporting the M website of things, at least initially. No. And they don't need to care about it. All they do is they don't even need to upgrade their node because it just works normally for them. And if you want to use the M website of things, you can. Yeah.
That's excellent. It's a really good explanation. Thank you. I did hear you say it hides the amount. So and this is really just my own curiosity, would the recipient and the sender still be visible, or are those hidden as well through Mimblewimble?
The recipient and the sender, they're visible like they are with Bitcoin. But you kind of with Bitcoin, so you can still track things to a certain degree. But with Mimblewimble, a lot of the partial transactions are dropped. So for example, if I sent you coins and if I sent you one Litecoin and you send someone else one Litecoin, me sending you and you sending someone else, that those transactions can be dropped because in the end, I'm just sending that one Litecoin to the final recipient, right? So that also helps with scalability, being able to drop those transactions. So when that happens in the block, those two transactions get dropped, and then that increases more privacy. So the fact that you handle the coins wouldn't even exist in the blockchain.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
I've always kind of speculated that, maybe it was, I wasn't aware of kind of maybe the burden or complexity that privacy puts on a blockchain. But I always kind of speculated that maybe Satoshi, when he created Bitcoin, avoided privacy for the reason of kind of what you brought up there is, totally new concept at the time. And if I can't see it, how do I know you're not just making it up?
That's kind of a concern a lot of people have. I mean, it's good with Bitcoin and Litecoin today where you can just do simple, like everything's out in the open. You can count, right? You can count the number of coins out there. nothing's hidden, and you don't have to use complicated math to prove that the total number of coins for Bitcoin is 21 million. Adding privacy makes it so that it's not that clear anymore, right? You need to use crypto to prove that it adds you 21 million. And then when you do crypto for that, there's always a chance of something like quantum computing breaking it, right? If quantum computing can break that cryptography, then you can increase the supply without anyone knowing, right? And we've seen that with certain privacy coins. It's not quantum computing, it's just a bug in the code that made it so that someone could actually print coins on thin air. And when they do that, because everything's hidden, no one can actually see it. So the actual supply is a lot higher than what people think it is, causing the price to drop. And people don't know why. And it's because the cryptography, there's a bug in it and it's broken. So that's always a concern. And that's something we need to be very careful about. So we're getting the code and the spec audited, make sure it's good. And when quantum computer ever comes to be possible to attack this, we'll address it then. But we're not too concerned about that right now, about quantum computing.
No, I had lots of people ask, that's kind of one of the standard questions for the last few years is, Google has a quantum computer, this and that. And it's, yes, they do, but quantum isn't just that simple, of course. We don't have to get into that, but it's nowhere near where it needs to be at that point. And at least from Litecoin stance, and I'm sure for Bitcoins too, it's likely much easier simply to change the algorithm than it is to create a quantum computer capable of doing that. I think that kind of fork way before that's a threat, at least personally. That's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, cool. These have been some great questions. Some great answers from you. I definitely appreciate that. I don't know if I have anything else for you. Maybe real quick, in the last kind of 12 years or so, what do you think has been your greatest accomplishments and maybe your biggest failures as well, if you have anything interesting to share?
Sure. I mean, I've been in this space since 2011, so been over 9 years. I mean, creating Litecoin was kind of a fluke, right? I was working on it kind of just for fun, just creating something on the side. Didn't expect it to become this big. Yeah, I think one of the big accomplishment I feel proud of is to get SegWit added to Litecoin and adopted and activated. I think that did help out with Bitcoin getting SegWit. Before Litecoin had SegWit, there was just a lot of FUD about how SegWit is very complex. There's an anyone can spend bug where miners can just steal coins. Once it's activated, miners can just steal coins from people's SegWit addresses. And that FUD was unfounded. And if you're technical enough, you would know right away that it's just unfounded. But for the most people who aren't very technical, it's easy to get swayed into believing that there's a big flaw with SegWit. And that's pushed by malicious people trying to stop SegWit because there's some cases where miners actually benefit from doing something tricky where SegWit actually kills their profitability. And that's why they're pushing for this narrative against SegWit. So it took a lot of work to convince miners to support SegWit on Litecoin, even though they're against SegWit on Bitcoin, because they probably knew that if SegWit activated on Litecoin, it would undermine their position on Bitcoin. But I managed to convince them to support SegWit on Litecoin, and the price reacted very favorably. When pools would start signaling for SegWit on Litecoin, the price would jump up. So the market clearly sends a very clear signal that SegWit is a good thing and that it should be activated on Litecoin. And then once it finally activated on Litecoin, a lot of the FUD around SegWit kind of just disappeared. It became much harder for anyone to say with a straight face that you can steal from SegWit addresses, that miners can steal from SegWit addresses, because there were millions of dollars of Litecoin on SegWit addresses that were just sitting there and not being stolen because it's not possible, right? So once the FUD is gone, the UASF movement for Bitcoin became very strong and then finally pushed through. And I think that is very important. Now we have like real work done with Lightning Network that depended on SegWit to be activated. And that's really making a lot of progress for Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually wasn't even aware that it was implemented essentially first on Litecoin. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. I learned something. I mean,
the Bitcoin devs did pretty much all the work, right? So the good thing about Litecoin is we keep our code base like very close to Bitcoin. So we get all the stuff from Bitcoin developers. I like to joke that all Bitcoin developers are also Litecoin developers because they work on Litecoin without even knowing. And then MWeb is kind of our first major thing that we're doing that's separate from Bitcoin. So it's definitely very interesting that first time we're doing something totally different from what Bitcoin is doing.
Yeah, that's great. That's absolutely great. I'm looking forward to it for sure. I'm a big Litecoin fan, obviously. That's why I'm so happy to have you on. Yeah, well, I think that kind of sums it up. Thank you so much for being on here and joining us and helping us understand some of these things about the future in Litecoin. So,
sure, I'm happy to join.